Welcome to Babblegum, giving you stories to chew on with Samuel Mui.
Yeah, that's more my normal speaking voice. Just now I was shouting and
Yeah,
so that was not my vocal cords were kind of strained, so that wasn't
it's not good for you to strain your
no,
vocal cord,
no.
especially before traveling. You do
Definitely.
not want to be on an airplane or in a different country and have your and be not feeling well. Hello.
Exactly. Okay.
Welcome to Babblegum. My name is Samuel Mui, and with me here is Dr. Carmen Singh. Hello.
Hi Samuel.
How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. And how are you?
I'm fine. I'm a bit like offset because we experienced quite a bit of technical difficulties trying to film, just trying to record this. But it's alright. Everything is fine now.
Yes.
We've managed to
Yes, we have.
sort everything
Yeah.
out. Alright, Dr. Carmen, why don't you give us a brief introduction of yourself just to let our audience know who you are?
Well, I'm just a simple Malaysian person who happens to be a doctor.
To most Malaysian people, that is that is not ordinary. That is not simple. People look up to you when they know you're a doctor. Instantly, people start looking up to you, right?
Yes, I would think so. Because it's in a profession of healing, and I would think that it's not just a profession like other professions, but it's more of a calling, a vocation.
Profession versus vocation. Tell me more about that. What's the difference?
Well, a vocation is a calling. It requires a certain dedication of your life. It-
But how much more so than a profession?
Well, some professions, everybody's required to be a professional, whatever they choose to do, whether you're a teacher or a administrator or even a bus driver. You should conduct what you do professionally, with professionalism,
Mhm.
with courtesy and with character and integrity. But when it's a vocation, it's a calling, it requires life sacrifice. And you are giving a lot of yourself for others.
Wow. So you have had to put a lot of sacrifice into what you do.
Well, it seemed like that in the beginning when I had to go to
Mhm.
college, but now I'm really glad I went through it, and it doesn't seem like a sacrifice to me anymore because I enjoy what I do, so it's no sacrifice anymore.
You're driven by passion.
Yes, I simply love what I do.
All right. Before we get further into what we do, actually, now let's get further into what you do. Sorry. Let's start with let's start with the beginning. The best place to start. Why did you become a doctor?
Well, to tell you the honest truth,
Money.
it was my parents.
Indian parents, right?
Being Having Indian parents and being the eldest child,
Oh, you're the eldest.
yes, I am,
Okay.
and having very strong family background of medicine, it seems to run in our blood.
Your father's a doctor? Your
My
mom?
my mother's side,
Mhm.
my father's a health inspector,
Similar.
so it's
Yeah.
all in the health, everything to do with health,
Mhm.
and because my great grandmother was the first uh, Indian woman in India to become a doctor.
What?
So yeah,
The very first.
the very first.
Ooh.
And hence, after my Form 5 results, I was expected to follow suit.
Damn, it's like your whole is your whole family on your mother's side composed of doctors?
Quite a few.
Quite a few.
Yes.
Any of them decided to go into painting or engineering?
No painters in my family, but well, I love art, so I actually work now to buy supplies for my other passion, which is art.
I mean, so just because you're a doctor doesn't mean you can't be artistic. You know?
Exactly.
Your family, would you say your family's artistic as well?
My father is.
Ah,
My father is
okay.
very
So it
artistic.
comes from your father's side.
But even the practice of medicine, it's an art
Mm.
because you're dealing with human life.
Mm-hmm.
And while there's the science behind it, but on the human scale of dealing with relationships, that requires a certain finesse, a certain sensitivity, which comes from a more artistic side of a person.
Mind going further? Like, huh? I'm trying to imagine how that applies to what you do. Can you give us an
Bedside
example?
manner.
Bedside manner. Alright.
I think it's very important to have a proper bedside manner. A lot of us doctors, we know the science of everything. We know how many arteries, the length of the longest nerve, how many muscles you have in the hand. But we lack bedside manner. We do not know how to deal with the different personalities. We do not know how to deal with families who are grieving. We were never trained to deal with such situations.
Really? I
And
thought you were like,
no, not in those days, but now
yeah,
it
nowadays.
has come into the curriculum and they've realized it is really quite important to have a good bedside manner. How do you make an elderly person comfortable? How do you speak to a little child? How do you deal with a difficult person? How do you deal with someone who's stressed? How do you deal with someone who is facing a very difficult diagnosis? How do you deal with all these different human emotions? That's 50% of the battle.
Yes, I think I have to agree. Ooh, so this is all stuff you had to learn by yourself. They didn't teach you
On
this.
the job.
Ooh, tough.
Hard learning curve.
Was it? How long would you say it took for you to get into it?
I think I've always been a people person,
Mm-hmm. It helps.
and that's been very helpful. I've always been more extroverted, more expressive, generally without, I'm just that kind of a person. So it wasn't too difficult for me as compared to some of my more introverted and shy colleagues.
Okay. Well, that's quite interesting.
That's why I like my work, because I meet new people every day, and some of my old patients have become more than patients. They're more like my friends. So it becomes building relationship, and I'm a person, I enjoy building relationships with different types of people.
I think that's something like when people hear of you becoming a doctor, they don't think that you have to be friendly. They don't think you have to build relationships.
Yeah.
I think the same goes for any other occupation or profession. You're like,
Exactly.
do you what I think what employers are now saying is that a key component in a good employee is a ability to create relationships.
Exactly.
Wow. All right. So going back to college, like, what do you want to do in the first place? Like, you said you weren't really. Were you keen on becoming a doctor?
No, when I was 14 years old, it was the first installation of the Indiana Jones series. It was Raiders of the Lost Ark. And when I was 14, I decided I was going to become an archaeologist and be a female version of Indiana Jones, because I had such a crush on Indiana Jones.
Did not turn out.
It didn't turn out that way because I wasn't that great at history, because I was simply too lazy.
Yeah. Oh, but you were lazy, but you became a doctor.
Well, I was always more inclined to math and physics because it requires just logic.
Yes, yes.
It's just logic.
Yeah, yeah.
So I didn't even want to do medicine because it required you to study.
What medicine? In a way, it's its own sense of logic.
Definitely, a lot of calculation, which is based on mathematics. So you need to be good at math. So then I was the captain of my school debating team, and we won the inaugural Oyukok debating trophy. And being captain, I decided that maybe I should be a lawyer.
I think you would make a good lawyer. I think.
And
But what turned that around? What?
well, after my Form 5 results, my mother came to my room and asked me, "So Carmen, what would you like to do?" And I said, "I'd like to be a lawyer." And she goes, No, you're going to be a doctor.
Oh no.
The families discussed it, and we're sending you off to college.
Oh.
So I was wondering why she even bothered to ask.
Were you angry?
No, I was not. I think I'm just one of those very positive people who just say, okay, if this is the way things are going to be, I'm just going to make the best out of the situation.
And you did.
Yes, I did.
At what point did it click for you that becoming a doctor was your destiny? Because at first, right, you weren't keen on it.
No, I was not keen on it. And even in medical school, you see, what took me all the way was because when I was in pre-med, I was like, okay, if I pass these exams, I'll go into medical school. And once I was in medical school, I said, I just have to work really hard and pass everything so I could get out of here and go back to Malaysia. And it was then when I came back that I was really in a hospital setting properly. A doctor, graduated, came back, and I really it started to sink in. And I realized that I was taking it like a duck to water. It was something I did not find difficult at all. It was something simple for me.
Do your colleagues find it difficult?
Some did. Housemanship is always very tough.
What's a housemanship for those of us like me who do not know what a housemanship is?
After you finish your final exams in university and you get a piece of paper which is called a degree, you still need to be registered with the local Malaysian Medical Council. And to get registered to practice in Malaysia, you need to go through a training, an in-house training. So in some countries they call it housemanship, like in Malaysia.
Yeah.
In some countries they would call it internship. So what is a houseman? A houseman is someone who basically lives in the hospital day in and day out.
They live in hospitals?
Basically.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's really fun. We practically live there, and we get trained. And we get trained and trained and trained. And in every section we need to pass and get signatures. We need to do certain compulsory minor surgeries and major surgeries, procedures. And then with that, once we've passed that, we qualify to get into the Malaysian Medical Council as a permanent member.
Wow.
And then we have to start applying for an annual practicing certificate. So every year there will be a committee to check whether we violated any of the rules, any of the laws, ethics, and then we get it renewed every year.
Even now, as a very senior doctor?
Yes, every year.
In a way, that's actually good because it keeps you accountable.
Exactly.
And a lot of people will graduate school and be like, oh, I can do everything, but then the housemanship forces them to actually put them in that situation and see what they can do and properly train you.
Yes, it's like taking what you've learned in the book, the theory, and putting it into practice.
I think that's one thing common among college students, because in college in general, because I believe college can only teach you so much. The best way to do is to learn something is to do something.
Definitely.
Wow.
We have a saying, we learn one, we do one, we teach one.
Oh, so you teach?
Yes, what you're supposed to do is somebody will teach you, so you're learning one, and then you do the same procedure on your own with someone observing you, and the third time you do it, you ought to teach someone, because the best way to learn is when you teach.
When you teach, yeah. Oh, so yeah, the whole medical system is quite good. But what would you say about the medical industry now in Malaysia today for medical students or students who want to go into medicine?
Well, I would sincerely hope that everyone who is studying medicine today in Malaysia is doing it for the love of it, for the passion of it.
Oh no!
For the love of the art of healing.
Oh no!
I would be very disappointed to know that it was for something else. Of course, I believe for the years of study, because there is no course longer than medicine, and it is the most difficult course.
I do not.
It is
I do not
extremely,
disagree.
it's extremely difficult. It is not about being intelligent alone. Having a high IQ will not guarantee you a medical degree and will not guarantee that you're going to be a successful doctor. So it's a lot of sacrifice. Many of us sacrificed our youth. So if there is a financial remuneration that is as what we should get, then I think it's all right.
It's all right. No.
It's all right. But of course, there should not be greed.
Oh yes.
But the other thing is, it is quite difficult for a doctor to be greedy because we are governed by ethics, and we actually have a scale or fee scale where for every procedure there is a certain scale only which we use that we can charge a patient. We can't charge more than a certain fee.
But it's still quite expensive though.
Well, equipment is expensive.
Oh yes.
Medication is expensive. And our required training of the years of training and fees that we have paid to go overseas and study and bring back our expertise in certain fields. We are saving lives. So yes, it can be expensive, but on the other hand, there's always the government hospital.
Yeah.
And believe me, we have one of the best health systems in the world.
You're working with them?
I used to work with the government, and I worked for many years because I loved working in the government hospital because there was no competition that your patient will run away to another doctor. Remuneration and finance never came into the picture. We did what we did because we loved what we were doing.
But it was still tough, and love drove you through.
Oh yes, I guess I'm one of those people who enjoy a challenge. I enjoy being challenged because I want to see how much more I can do, because I believe that in each person there is a potential. When you're born, you have a potential in you, and it's the choices that you make in your life that decides whether you take up those challenges or you back down and remain where you are.
Okay, let's give me a moment to think about that. Wow, like, my goodness. So you don't believe that stupid people exist?
No.
To you, everyone, if they apply themselves, they can achieve something.
In whichever area they're gifted in.
Wow.
You don't have to be academic to be a useful, productive member of society.
I fully agree with that. I think everybody has the chance to contribute. Oh my goodness. Okay, dude, that was quite heavy. Like that quote. Like, whew. Okay, let's just continue while we edit. So that's your advice to medical
To
anyone.
anyone, I would say you don't have to go down the same road as everyone else. Like, I enjoy art, so I challenge myself by painting, even though I'm a medical doctor.
I'm in your house right now, and there's like that was done by you, right?
Yes.
The
mosaic.
That's you.
Yes, yes.
Wow. Where do you find the time to do that?
I make time.
You make time. That's the attitude right there.
Yes, if you want to do something, you will do it.
Wow. Okay.
You just set yourself a goal, and you just go out there and just do it.
All right. So
I know that's a Nike thing, ain't it?
No way. Yeah, that's a Nike. That's why it sells well, you know.
Yeah.
That's why it sells well. So let's move on from your college years. You said that as you started working, you begin to really discover it. Like discover yourself as a doctor, like
Yes.
you said, like a duck to water.
Yeah.
And how's that like, that those early years? Because I was looking at your resume you sent in. Yeah, well, when you say when you sent your resume to me, I felt I was like, okay, I'm not an employer. It was a bit weird for me, like having someone send their resume, but
Okay.
it helped, and yeah, as I was reading it, I noticed you spent quite a while in general practice, right? Am I right?
Yes, yes.
What's that like?
Well, all of us start out in general practice, and
Mm-hmm.
it is hoped when we do our housemanship, we would actually find where our passion would be and whether which particular area
Mm-hmm.
of um,
Specialty.
speciality we would like to pursue.
And you went to
And
gynecology?
yes, I enjoyed obstetrics and gynecology, and I think I pursued that even more because I was posted to Sarawak,
Mm-hmm.
and I was posted to a little town called Marudi,
Mm-hmm.
which had no road in those years. There was no transportation from Miri to Marudi except by river, which was about 3 to 4 hours by a longboat, a motorized longboat.
You're serious?
Yes.
Like, there's no dirt roads, nothing?
No, there was no dirt road. There was
Ooh.
nothing. That just recently came up.
Mm-hmm.
The dirt road.
Yeah.
It's not even fully
Wait,
tarred.
recently?
Yes,
Wow.
just a few years ago.
So it's that. It's
Remote.
that of remote, yeah.
Yes. It was actually on the way to Mulu.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like the last town in Baram.
Mm-hmm.
Last township. After that, it's all just kampungs.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like in the middle of nowhere. Or you fly in by a twin otter,
Mhm.
which is just about a 25 seater
Mhm.
max. And this was a small district hospital in the largest district in Malaysia.
Mm.
Huge district, many different tribes.
How, okay.
And it was very, very interesting. There was only one street traffic light and one main street in town. And we all got very excited about that one traffic light because the traffic light allowed us to cross the road. There were hardly any vehicles
Ooh.
because everybody was going everywhere by boats.
This was in the early 2000s?
This was in 1997.
1997. Alright, I was just born. I was just born.
And
Alright.
we did not even get TV Go. We had Brunei television.
Bro,
We could not even get.
Is that illegal?
No, because your satellite, we bought it with Brunei, so our satellite, our antenna would catch that.
Alright.
So you never got TV Tiga and the Malaysian channels. Newspapers came 1 or 2 days later, so you're always reading news in the past.
And was it more expensive because of the
Things were
transportation?
a little bit more expensive, definitely because of transportation from Miri to the Baram district. But we were compensated in the sense we had hardship allowance and we all earned a higher salary than our West Malaysian counterparts.
Because, yeah, I can imagine why.
And it was like being thrown at the deep end of a swimming pool without a life jacket and not having swum before.
Wow.
And
How as a doctor, how long had you been a doctor?
I was a fresh medical officer. I just finished my housemanship
Ooh.
of 18 months in Alostar.
Alright.
And I just finished my stint in pediatrics. And then they figured I was fit to go to Sarawak and serve not in a main hospital, but send me right out to the district hospital to manage.
Wow, like what's the hospital like? I don't suppose it was as high tech as the ones here.
It's not high tech. It was a 60 bed, and there were only 4 doctors, and I was the only lady doctor in the entire district.
Oh.
So, and it's a huge district. It's larger than the state of Pahang.
Okay, let us just sink in for. So that one district, the 60-bed district, 4 doctors.
Only female doctor.
And yeah, you were the only female doctor, and this district is the size is
Larger
than Pahang.
Yes.
And everybody, if anybody wanted to go to the hospital, they had to come there.
Yes.
Was it crowded?
Oh no, yeah.
Wow.
We were very busy all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and some of our patients would take a week to come
Mm-hmm.
because they either had to walk in the jungle
Wow.
or come by River Rhine.
I did. This is like part of Malaysia. I don't. We don't really hear much about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and not all of them speak English.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, the challenge was making sure that babies were born
Mm-hmm.
healthy mothers, healthy babies. So we would have the nomadic tribes just come in, and I don't know how many weeks she is, I don't know at what stage, but you just prepare.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have a lot of surprises, some nice, some not so nice. A lot of challenges
Mm-hmm.
because you have no specialist covering you. They're
Mm-hmm.
all in Miri. And the last flight from Marudi is out at 3:30 in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
No, the last boat out of Marudi is at 3:30 in the afternoon. The last flight was at 5:45, 6 o'clock max.
Mm-hmm.
And once it's sunset, the helicopter cannot fly.
Yeah. Okay.
So if a patient comes to you in an emergency in the night,
You have. You have to.
you have to manage.
Ooh.
You are the only one who can do it. So I remember while I had done quite a few appendicectomies in my hospital in Alostar, there was always the knowledge that there was an MO, a senior specialist, someone there behind you. And suddenly you're thrown out here and you know that you're the only person around.
You're
You're the
alone.
senior person.
Oh my goodness. So.
And
Wow.
I remember I had this appendicectomy to do.
Mm-hmm.
And in the OT, there was this huge book. It's a surgical Bailey's and Love, which is like our Bible of surgery. And I opened the book. It was huge. You know, we had it propped up because we could never hold it. It's so big. And it told us step by step how to do an appendicectomy.
And that was the first, like,
First on my own without anyone around.
totally like in.
But
Uh-huh.
what I learned was to be humble
Mm-hmm.
and turn to my nurses and admit that this was my first time without any senior person around me, and that I would appreciate it if they could teach me.
So at that point, the nurses were more qualified than you.
They were far more experienced.
Yes.
They had experience that
Mhm.
I did not have. They have been nurses for years, 15, 20 years, and I was just a new doctor. So I decided to turn to them as a doctor and say, please help me. If I'm doing something not right, please correct me and help me along.
Yeah.
And I never lost a patient after that.
Thank God. That's wow. Yeah. So I think good, like really good. I mean, good for you. 'Cause a lot of like some personally, like some of my impressions of some doctors is that their ego, right? They're like
Yes.
they don't listen to anyone and they want their own opinion
Yeah.
pushed forward. Have you actually dealt with anybody like that before?
Patience.
Patients who think they know everything and they want.
Oh yes,
things
they'll try and
differently.
teach you sometimes.
Oh yes, I do know a few people like that.
Yeah, and I know there are doctors like that as well. But anyway, I don't think a few bad apples should
No,
taint the entire
definitely not.
profession. There are many who are doing great work out there.
Definitely. How would you say how did you deal with patients or people like that?
Take a deep breath, count to 100. If that doesn't work, I count again to 100. And then I walk away and then approach them again after I've calmed down and hoping that that person's calmed down enough for us to have a discussion. Sometimes people get very emotional.
What if they're not willing to discuss it with you and they're still
Well,
insistent?
I remember that once I had a gentleman, an elderly gentleman brought in to me. He was actually already dying.
Mm-hmm.
He had a massive stroke.
Mm-hmm.
And once you have a massive stroke in any hospital and you know the person is dying off, blood pressure is too low, there's no way he was going to be revived. You just do the necessary to keep him going and to slowly let his life ebb away. And his son was very annoyed because he expected me to make his father alive again. And when I declared death, he was very old. The man was very old, a massive stroke, and he's had a full life, whatever that would mean to him. But it didn't seem like a good idea at that time to resuscitate. You have to pick and choose. You can't resuscitate every single person that comes along. He would have remained a vegetable because he was already brain dead. But the son was very emotional, and after I had informed him, he was this huge man, and I'm very small. And he started kicking the nurse's counter out of anger and frustration. He could not accept it. But what I decided to do was to keep my head down, survey the family and see who was calmer, and speak to that person, and write the death certificate and do what I needed to do and walk away.
I can't imagine it must have been easy.
It's very difficult because I was fearful for myself, my safety, and I was in charge, so I was fearful for the safety of my staff, and I was fearful for the other patients in the ward. And our security guards were not the biggest size in the world, so I knew they could not deal with that situation. So in any situation in life, even till today, if I find someone who's shouting at me and is unable to be reasonable at that particular moment for whatever it is, I prefer to just keep quiet and walk away and hope that person would calm down enough and think about it.
Wow.
Instead of fighting for my rights and telling him what's right, I think the kind thing to do would just to walk away.
I think, I mean, a lot of us, we are put in situations like that, and if when we are not put in that situation, for example, right now, I can say to myself, yes, when a person is being unreasonable, a person is shouting at me, I'll be able to just shut up and walk away. But in the heat of the moment, it's like you want to fight. That must have been, wow. It's a very difficult thing to do. So
it is difficult because you have done the right thing, and you are in the right. But sometimes you have to choose kindness over being right.
Definitely.
It's better to be kind than to be right, especially in circumstances like that. And it's being merciful. I mean, I can imagine the sudden shock. You don't expect your father to be like that, and he's suddenly alive one moment, and then suddenly you're told he's dead. It can be a bit of a shock, and he reacted in that shock. But a soft answer always turns away wrath.
Yes. Amen. I also can't imagine making a decision like that to pull the plug. I'm pretty sure before that you already knew it was an option, but how was it for you to actually do it, pull the plug on someone? I don't think it would have been easy.
It's never easy. It's never easy when you have to make decisions like that. But you just have to know what's best, because you know that if you keep this person alive, it's just going to be a vegetable, and there's no quality in being a vegetable.
Yes.
You send a person home being a burden, not only to himself but to the entire family. So you also have to think of the long term.
All right. Let's move further into the future. After a while, you began to work with non-government organizations.
That's right.
What's the first one you started working with?
Well, I went to Timor.
You went to Timor. That's actually quite relatively recent.
Yes. Which ones are you talking about?
Okay, let me just take a look through your resume, because I was reading it the other day and I was like, oh my goodness, there's so many words I do not understand.
Oh, really? I thought it was quite simple.
To you. All right, let's take a
Oh,
look
you
here.
tell me what you don't understand and I'll clarify it for
Oh no,
you.
I googled some stuff like
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Like what? What did you Google?
Obstetrics. Actually,
Okay.
what is obstetrics?
Right. It's
What is
it's
it?
taking care from the womb
Uh-huh.
until delivery and the next 1 month.
Isn't that just gynecology?
Gynecology takes care of the diseases of the female parts.
All right, all right. So in my mind, they were the same thing.
Yeah, they're different.
All right. Okay. You started working in 2007 to 2009. That was in when you went to Timor-Leste.
That's right.
All right. With am I correct me if I'm wrong? The United Nations People's Population Foundation Population Fund. Was it?
No,
No.
no. My stint in Timor-Leste was not an easy choice. I was running a very nice, successful private practice
Oh,
in Damansara in Kayu Ara.
very comfortable.
I was very comfortable, very happy, and I thought this was the life that I was going to lead, and things were going very well. And then my husband dropped the bombshell that he had been invited to join the United Nations development program in Timor-Leste. And at that time, Timor-Leste was a very new country,
Mm-hmm.
just out of civil war.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband felt that it was time for us to go. And for me, it was very difficult because here was a huge challenge. I was leaving this lovely practice. I had made so many friends in Kayu Ara. I was just getting to know Kuala Lumpur after so many years in Sarawak.
Mm-hmm.
Just getting my feel around the place, and here I was being uprooted, literally uprooted, and being told to cut off from everything here and move to a country I knew nothing about.
Mm.
In those days, there was no Google.
2007. No
Well,
Google?
that was Google, but yeah, I was not very good
Oh,
at
yeah,
computers.
it was very new at that time.
Google was extremely new. Windows, all these things were really, really new, and I didn't have a choice. I didn't see myself having a choice.
Mhm.
It was. I cannot say I boarded my flight with a skip in my step. I did not. I cried all the way. I cried at the airport.
Really?
I cried in the car.
Not just like physically, like not just mentally, like
I really
emotional.
cried. And I really cried because I was going into the unknown. It was completely strange to me. I knew nothing about the culture, I knew nothing about the language, I knew nothing about the people, I knew nothing about their history, and I was going in as a spouse without any guarantee of a job. I was so used to earning my own money, but now I was just going in as a wife. And so on the flight, I prayed really hard, and I decided to be obedient, at least in action, towards my husband, if not totally in my heart. I decided that, I need to be with him, I need to support him in his work, I have to go. And I decided to keep an utterly open mind. So after spending a night in Bali, and I was flying from Bali to Dili, I told myself, even if we were living in a mud hut and having a poor flush latrine or a pit latrine, I would accept it. By that time, I had an absolutely open mind. I was willing to accept anything that came my way, as long as my husband was next to me, and that this would make him happy, and this would be, he would see this as a support to his work with the UN. And when I landed at the airport, and I was looking around, I was wondering where the building was, because all I was seeing were refugee tents. I was just seeing this refugee camp at the airport, and military tents.
It was just tents, all of them.
And it was just this dusty runway.
Wow.
And immigration was a little cabin where we go and buy your visa, was this little cabin. and you'd stand outside in the dry heat. And the airport was so small you could see outside the main road from the tarmac. And I was so excited when I spotted my husband because he's really tall, so he was about a foot taller than the other men around. I spotted him and I ran right out and I forgot my luggage. And he looked at me and said, where are your bags? And I go, oh, you mean there's a carousel? There's hardly 10 steps. So, and I had to go and tell the security personnel who had this huge M16 gun and tell him like, look, I've made this mistake. Can I please go back and look for my luggage? And in all this melee and all this confusion, I went to our home, which was really beautiful. I had a beautiful rose garden. And I thought I was in Eden. It was a beautiful garden, a beautiful house.
Whose house was it?
We rented it from this lady who had 7 children. She was a widow. Her husband was a soldier under the Portuguese military who was killed by the Indonesian army when they came over. And so she had been managing the entire family with her 7 kids. And we decided that a good way to support the people of Timor-Leste was not to live in a fancy place, but to live among the community and to rent a place from a family who could be much supported and helped by the rent that we were giving them. So we thought that was better than staying in an expatriate enclave or something.
Yeah, I like the way you say it, enclave.
Yes, and because that would be really fancy and comfortable, very Western with a swimming pool and every amenity.
They had that there.
Of course. And we would be living in a place where for a year and a half I did not have running water. I even my taps were dry. I did not know what the sound of running water was about. I never had a shower. I had a mandi of iced cold water, and electricity was like only about 4 to 5 hours a day. So I made a joke and I would tell my husband, we have such romantic dinners because it's always by candlelight. And it's good that it's by candlelight because you can't see what I've cooked. So you'll just eat whatever's served to you.
What did you cook there?
I would cook dal. I brought stuff from Malaysia, but there were supermarkets run by Singaporeans where you could get everything. Yes.
Singaporeans?
Yes. And
wow.
A Malaysian Chinese family ran the best bakery in town, and the best mechanic was from somebody from Selangor. So there were Malaysians who took the risk and went and set up businesses in Timor, in Dili.
That's good. They help the local.
Exactly.
Help local economy.
Not only that, they helped the expatriates because we were the ones who'd be buying all this. Also, we even had a mini IKEA, and we could get Body Shop stuff as well.
No, wait. and IKEA, licensed.
We could get stuff, IKEA stuff. Yeah.
And Body Shop stuff.
Yes, we could. We would order it. We had stuff from Australia. We had a lot of things coming in from Australia.
That's interesting.
But at premium prices.
Yeah, I mean, evidently.
Yeah. And everything was in US dollar. One thosai would cost you about $250 US. Yeah, so we ate very slowly without teh tarik.
How much was the teh tarik?
That would be about $1.50. And one satay would be about $1, so we would chew very slowly. That's in US dollars.
That's almost as bad as it is here.
Yeah. So after a while, when I was in Sarawak, I had been in charge of the One-Stop Crisis Center in Kuching, which meant a One-Stop Crisis Center deals with victims of sexual abuse. So I knew how to do that, so all the molest cases, the rape cases would come to me, and I was used to going to court in Sarawak, and also in Kulim in Kedah, where I also in the district hospital I was in charge of all the rape cases. So at that time, in any country which is just fresh from war, civil war, there's always this oppression of those who are weak. Women, young girls, children. So at that time, being a new country, we were trying to set up legislation and laws to protect these women. And at that time, there was not even a technical pro forma of how we could actually collect this data, proper legal documents to prove rape or to even describe rape. So I simply volunteered myself to sit down with the United Nations police and come up with these documents, these technical documents, medical technical documents that would be simple enough that even if I trained a police officer, they would be able to do it, and how to do a test rape kit, and be legally binding and a legal document that could be accepted in the court of law. And one fine day, the president of the Alola Foundation, who happened to be the wife of the Prime Minister, she sent a note.
Foundation?
Alola.
What
Alola Foundation is named after this girl, Alola, who was sexually abused during the war of independence. And to cut the story short, her tale of abuse is really quite horrific. And this foundation was set up in her name to support women and young girls who are going through that same abuse.
Okay.
So I was called for a cup of tea, and I went there, and the next thing I knew was they gave me a telephone number and a name, Nadine Hoekman, and told me to call her, that this was USAID, and I should give her a call. So I did. I told my husband, and I gave her a call. Next thing I knew, I was called into Health Alliance International, and I did not even realize that I was having an interview. I thought I was just meeting everyone and having a chat, because all the staff were asking me lots of questions, and I was having a nice chat. And the next thing I knew, I got a call 2 days later and said, Carmen, what salary would you like?
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, what are you talking about? And they were like, no, we're offering you a position. How much salary would you like? And I said, I have no idea what I'm worth. And so I talked to my husband, and he gave me a figure. And I went back to them with that figure. And they sent me a document. It was double what I had asked for. And I remember myself jumping on our bed. And my husband was so pleased. We were so astonished. We thought they were very, very generous. And I started my work in Timor. It was completely new. Completely new, and I had to learn a whole new language.
What did you speak there?
I spoke Tatu, which is Pidgin Portuguese, and
Pidgin Portuguese?
yes, it's a form of Portuguese. Lots of Portuguese in it, but a simplified form of it. And I had to learn it within a week. I had my classes, and I graduated 5 days later. I actually graduated class in the sense we all were in the beginner's class in the morning. By afternoon, I was singled out and sent to the advanced class. And a few days later, I graduated from the advanced class.
You learned a whole new language in 5...
Yes, I did.
Was it difficult?
I did not find it difficult because I know French as well. So the rules of romantic languages are basically the same.
You know French?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Why?
How?
Why? Because French was a compulsory language for me in pre-med. I had to pass French to get into medical college, even if I got A's in math and physics, biology, chemistry. But if I did not pass English literature and French, I would not be able to go into medical school. I would have to pass everything.
Why French? Why French?
Why French? I don't know why French. I guess at the age of 17, 18, you don't ask too many questions.
Yeah.
You just do what you're told. If this is what's required, you just go ahead and just do it. But no regrets, because I did not know why I did French at that time. But now I'm so glad I did, because it's been so useful to me.
Especially particularly learning Portuguese.
Exactly. Learning other languages became much simpler. Traveling, living in Tunisia right now, it's made things much easier.
Yes.
So it may be something way out of the box,
But you never know.
but you never know.
You never know. That's a good.
You never know. So I would encourage, if anybody is given an opportunity to do something way out of the box, just go ahead when you're young and do it. Because when you're young, that's the time you have the energy and the capacity to absorb and learn. So it's learning something new is never a waste. I actually set myself up every year goals to learn something new every year, even now.
So what's your current goal? What's your current?
To be a good samba dancer. So I'm going for Zumba.
Ooh, that's interesting. All right, let's not get sidetracked here. Let's go back to your job.
Yes.
in
And to do
Timor-Leste.
large paintings, because I hope to have an exhibition with my art
Seriously.
by
Nice.
next year. Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
All right, you have to invite. I think you will. You'll probably invite my whole family. Yeah, I don't mind. Yeah,
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
To do big pieces, because everybody thinks that I have the capacity to do big pieces.
Hey, even if you don't, just try it.
Yes. You never know.
Alright,
Yeah.
back to your job back in
Okay.
East Timor. I have to say, I actually had to Google Timor-Leste as I was reading
Alright,
your resume.
okay.
I've heard about your work in Timor-Leste, but it never clicked about the country itself. So I actually
Right,
went and
yeah.
Googled it, and I was like,
Yes.
it's super obscure.
Yes.
I had no idea what it was, where it was, and my goodness, like when you heard about Timor-Leste, did you know what it was? Like
No idea.
like-
All I knew was the newest country in the world. I had no knowledge. But you see, that was also very exciting, that when you go there and you work, I had so many challenges put to me professionally. I was given targets.
Yeah.
Timor-Leste had the third highest maternal mortality rate in the world.
Wow.
One of the highest neonatal mortality rates in the world, infant mortality rates in the world. Neonatal would be the death of a baby within the first 28 days of
Okay.
life. It had a very low life expectancy for men, low life expectancy for women. Women were giving birth too many times, high rate of abortions, high rate of teenage pregnancies. And I was given the task of reducing maternal mortality rate and neonatal mortality rate, which was the Millennium Development Goals 4 and 5. At that time, the whole world was focusing on Millennium Development Goals. And this is one of the two very important Millennium Development Goals. And I was given the task of more than half the country and of reducing that mortality rate. And I was given
Wait, this
6 districts.
This was all on you.
All on me.
All on you.
6 districts.
Did you have a team or?
I had a team of 2 wonderful nurses.
Two.
Yes, Teresina Sarmento and Antonia Mesquita.
Oh.
And there were 2 senior nurses. But the 3 of us had to travel north, south, east, west of the country to cover 6 districts. A mountainous region, 40 kilometers will take you 8 hours of travel. You don't have tarred roads, it's half roads, collapsed roads, crossing rivers, walking, trekking. Yeah. But I loved every minute of it.
Yeah.
because it was such a challenge, and for me, seeing a baby born, it was such a victory. It was a victory of life. Every time a baby was born, it was such a special feeling. And that high rate of unattended, no professional attending to the birth, everybody was just giving birth at home. And there was no proper data because when the Indonesians left, they burnt most of the records. So you had this huge gap. People were not being immunized. So women were getting tetanus and dying while pregnant. They were giving birth in filthy surroundings. So babies were being born and then dying of sepsis. So as we were going around doing our work, and like what you said earlier about ego, most of the people are illiterate. So when you're a nurse or you're somebody senior in medical in the district or in a sub-district, you think, it's a case of the one-eyed king. One-eyed person is king in the land of the blind. So you think you are greater than everybody, than the peasants and farmers. So the relationship between the health department in the sub-districts and districts and the local population was not there. The local population preferred to go to the dukun than to go to a hospital or to a clinic.
What's a dukun?
A dukun is a witch doctor.
Okay.
And we still find that in Africa. They would rather do that.
We find it here also.
And the reason they tell us is because they're so arrogant. They don't listen to us. They look down on us. They don't want to build a relationship with us. The nurse is not coming on time to work. And that happened a lot. When I would tell the nurses, I'm coming next week to do inspection and quality, and I'm going to watch your quality. I can be waiting an hour and a half, and they're not going to apologize.
Well,
just
like Malaysians.
They're not going to apologize that they've kept you waiting. They're not going to apologize to the patients who have left a day's wages, because when they're not in the farms, when they're in the clinic, they're not at the farms, and when they're not in the farms, they're not earning. And they just basically have rice, some kangkong and salt. That's their food. That's the diet, because they're so poor.
That's their cuisine.
Yeah. They're so poor. There's no running water. There's no electricity in the rural places. And so this breakdown of relationship has resulted in a lot of people families choosing to deliver their babies at home. And also, if someone's ill, they'll try traditional methods or go to a traditional birth attendant rather than coming to a clean, sterile hospital. All right?
Yeah.
So I was tasked not only to get numbers up, but working on behavioral change in communication. So that was actually more difficult, because you can have results which are tangible, that's data, and intangible results which you'll only see in 5-10 years. And you're expected to perform. It was difficult, but in that process of doing my work, I realized because data was so lacking, I started going around writing stories. Whenever I heard that a baby had died or a mother had died, I would not simply accept a number. When I look at a record, I see that number, I see it as a person. And behind that baby is a grieving father and mother. So I started taking these numbers and going around investigating, asking stories. And for each story, I started writing out every month from the 6 districts. And I started tabulating these things. And I took my nurses and I told them to also get me whatever little bit of information, anything, just get me anything. And a story emerged.
How big is one district? How many people is in one district?
The thing about Timor-Leste, I think at that time we only had about 3 million people.
Yep.
And it's scattered. You have more in the town, but some sub-districts. Wow, I should show you the pictures someday.
One day.
Yeah,
Or you should
someday.
get a Facebook or start a
I'm
blog.
not on Facebook. I have no time
Yeah, you don't
for
need to be.
yeah.
But,
And people are very isolated.
Mhm.
They're isolated one from the other.
Mm.
2-3 families in one area, 2-3 families in another coffee grove, or those in the mountains, another 2-3 in the valley.
Coffee is one of their main exports, right?
Exactly. And that's a problem, having only a single crop as an export, because coffee you can only harvest once a year.
Yep.
And after that, what are you going to do to generate income?
Mm.
They should
Yeah.
diversify.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's going on with UNDP, diversification, and USAID is also doing projects on that.
Yeah.
So coming back to this,
Yeah.
we realized we had quite a bit of very good data that I'd collected. And my boss Nadine encouraged me to write a proper report, which went national. And it was the first of its kind ever written.
Yes. I saw that in your resume.
Yeah. No, but you should actually read the whole report.
All the stories.
Yes.
How could I find?
I could actually email it to you.
Oh, yeah. I want to take a look, and I might want to.
Someday go and see what you can do in Timor.
No, oh no! You pushed me. I'm just no. Maybe I can put this up on some sort of website where people can view it. Is it on the website now?
It's not on a website. It is in the National Archives, both in Timor, in the United States, and in Malaysia. And it's there in the National University in Timor-Leste, and a copy of the Health Ministry.
Is there a way I can put it up on the website so my listeners can actually just check it out if they're interested?
And find out what they can do, or something like
whatever
that.
whatever they want to do with the information. Yeah.
Okay, and they could come back to me for information and see where things are. Things have improved.
Definitely.
Yes, and that made me very glad. Things have definitely improved. I've checked out. I actually did a seminar in Singapore with the medical students at NTU and Nanyang University in October last year.
Those are really big.
Yes. And to show them the work that I did, very particular projects that I did, and how 10 years down the road, the projects that I did actually affected national levels of maternal mortality rate and neonatal mortality rates, that things have improved. But I also shared my failures and struggles in that talk, because to achieve something, you have to go through struggle. You will fail.
Yes.
You will fail, and you will learn from that and get up and do things differently. So that's very important. No journey is straight. It's a learning process every step of the way.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I that was one of the great things that happened unexpectedly, but it was just that it was not part of what I was asked to do, but because I saw that gap, I just decided to do something on my own and get this information out there. So after that, a couple of my colleagues helped me make simple pamphlets with certain very, very heart-wrenching cases, and pass it out in Parliament and give it to every district assemblyman and things like that. Let every politician have a piece. Like I just made a little pamphlet and sent it out there, so that they would be aware that these numbers are just not numbers. These are real human beings which need not have to die. So I just wanted that message out there.
Wow. How does it feel to be responsible for major change in a nation, in like a whole country?
Of course, it's amazing, because I never set out to be ambitious in that way.
Yep.
I just, you see, all of us have junctions in life.
Yep.
It's a matter of choice, and I just chose to take the road less traveled.
Yep.
And it's not about money, how much I earn. Like I told you, I didn't even know how much salary I was worth and how much I should ask for. But for me, the satisfaction, the personal satisfaction, the personal achievement, and knowing that people are living healthier lives. They may not know my name anymore. They probably would have forgotten me. But knowing that you've made that positive difference in the development of a country,
An entire country.
yeah, that's amazing. No amount of money can give
Yeah.
me that feeling of accomplishment.
So
Yeah.
no regrets.
No regrets at all. My husband told me after 6 months that he felt I became a better person, actually, that I changed. So Timor changed me, but looking back, I think my difficult years, my beginning in India was in a very tough rural college, and I think it was those experiences when I was just 17 plus 18, 19. I was 18 and 19, and I had to study by candlelight a lot, or by a rechargeable tube light, because we had no electricity in winter sometimes.
Oh, and very, very cold.
Very cold, and no proper electricity. No Malaysian food. Was vegetarian.
Oh no!
Pasta was horrible. We had to carry water from the well, and I lived on the 3rd floor, so little tiny me had to carry 1 bucket every day for myself. 1 bucket per day was my ration for everything.
A ration.
Yes, that was my water ration.
Wow.
And that actually, I realize now, it was training ground
Good exercise.
for me to actually be able to go through a lot of things later on in life.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. I think that concludes today's podcast. Thank you. It's been an hour plus.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, time just flies. I might have to split this up into 2 because my podcasts usually run around 1 hour. Sorry, half an hour. So
How did we end up being so long? We
well,
didn't even talk about
okay.
what I do now.
Okay,
and RSG. Oh my goodness.
maybe next time a second like a sequel episode. Maybe at some point. I'm pretty sure there's a lot you can talk about in Timor-Leste.
Yes. Oh yes, there's so much on Timor. I love the country, and I hope someday to go back and maybe continue to do some more work there. But in the meantime, I am now with Relief Singapore as on the advisory board. And now we're concentrating, while the Millennium Development Goals are still in progress and still relevant today, the United Nations is now gone into Sustainable Development Goals, and that's where I'm focused now on.
All right. All right. Let's end it now. Thank you for listening to Babblegum with Dr. Carmen Singh.
Thank you for allowing me to babble away.
Thank you. You're welcome. I noticed one thing with all my interviewees, right? Or people in general. Time flies when you ask them to talk about themselves.
Okay.
Okay. Alright.
I thought I was talking about my work and not myself.
It's still yourself.
It's still myself. It's still
It's
part
fine.
of it.
It's
Definitely,
fine. Alright.
definitely.
Ciao. Please like, share, and subscribe and whatever. If people want, should I give you your contact, just in case?
Yes, you could.
All
you
right.
could.
All right. So if you have any more further questions, or you want to book her for gigs or something, yeah.
By email only, please,
By
because
email.
I travel extensively.
Yes. Okay. Ciao.
Bye.